Hello there. I'm Renato Fernandes, and it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm here to collaborate on this European network of football connection. Um, my team, my thematic will be on the web seminar number one. And what I'm going to speak is about empowering female soccer strategies and insights for women's football development. It belongs to a web seminar that is related to monitoring and controlling training load, as it means to sustain the physical condition of male and female football talents. But I'm going to speak about especially for women football development. Uh, I'm going to do a little introduction to the team, and we all know that football today, especially on men's football, there are a lot of things that are analyzed and monitored. We know that it's analyzed the physical conditions, the tactical conditions, the technical conditions. And the more and more the football is evaluating, we see that there are more instruments, there are more human resources that are very specialized in some areas, and even the players are more evaluated. And we know about more about the physical, the tactical, and the technical conditions of football. But this is mainly with men's. There is an example, for example, this is a player from Liverpool that last year or in 2023 made uh, a run on the field, and it means it probably he established a new record on speed in a game. But after it, and after some concerns about too much people, it was the people. It was shown that afterwards it was the most quickly. So it made it 36.5 kilometers per hour. But this is just one thing that shows that now we evaluate anything, everything in football, especially in men's. But some weeks later or some months later, we saw that in Portugal, yeah, my country, there was a forward in a um, small team in the first league in Portugal that made 40.3 kilometers per hour. But it's just one thing that we makes football special, and that we evaluate and we monitorize in men's football. It's just one thing. But what we see is that with all these informations about men's football, we can make a profile of a reference player here on nowadays. And this is in Portuguese, but when we can see that we can categorize and even make a profile of a player with the best conditions to play football. Okay, like physical conditions, like technical conditions, and obviously tactical conditions. We know that the intensity in football nowadays, it's very dependent of the physical conditions, and that what I'm going to talk about now, the physical conditions. So it's very explored today, the physical conditions in men's football. We have a lot of data, a lot of parameters, but here we can compare the speed zones used in football nowadays, in professional football nowadays, compared with the running speed, for example, in the race that Usain Bolt made on the 100 meters on his record that he made his record. So this is another example. So there is a lot of investigation now in men's football, even in World Cups. This is an example from the World Cups that was taken, and mainly we can resume this introduction to see that men's football is very explored nowadays, especially in the last 20 years. Here we can see a little data from the European tournament in 2022 and sorry, 2020, I think. And we can see that the players are have sometimes rates from there's the speeding very high. Example, Kylian Mbappe has 36.7. There is some data too from all the teams in the FIFA tournament, in the World Cup tournament in 2022, and this is very explored. But the question is, and the main theme here is, what about women and girls? Do you know? We know the same things that we know from men's football, or they have just a few information about this. So comparing to the data speaking that I speak before, yeah, we know now. We don't know yet all the things that men's have, but we know a lot of information now from women's football or female football or female soccer, where. And this is an example from the data taken from a Women's World Cup. In this case, in Australia and New Zealand in 2023. But beware, the speed zones are different, okay? This is women, okay? And we have to adapt that kind of speed zones. But we have the same information from the World Cups and the Euro Cups. But in men's, we have this information for about 10, 15 years. The women's just after 2020. We have some information about that on one of the big tournaments of UEFA and FIFA. This is a comparison from just as a parameter that is top speed, and we can see here that the men's on the World Cup, the top speeds are between 35, 35.40, 35.33. But the girls and the women are 33.68, 32.88, 32.78. So there is a little bit difference between the top speed that is expected. That's why the speed zones are different. Okay, we have to know that things are different between men's and women's. This is the first thing that we need to know. Even with the sprint distance, that is a very important parameter in the variable on the physical conditions and the performance, the physical performance of the football nowadays. There are it's very different. Even here, the sprint distance comparing women with men's are very different. For example, like the wide defender on the women's, we see that the sprint distance are 590, and the wide defender from the men's are 957. So there is a great difference between men's and women's in sprint distance. So I'm talking about here a theme that it's workload. and even training load. That's what I'm talking about. And I made that introduction to center on and focus on this team. So, what is training load or workload here in soccer? Um, a lot of people are investigation and made investigation on this kind of teams, and it's very important to do that. Why? Because nowadays the football are very intense, and it's increasing that intensity. So it's very important to evaluate the training load in soccer and even the match load in soccer because of two things: to performance optimization and to injury risk mitigation. So it's two things, different things, but it's important. One, it's because of the injuries that the players might have, and the other things, it's the performance. Okay, and interesting because we have to improve performance of the players, but we need to be aware of the injury risk that players have. So it's very important to analyze that training load. But training load has a lot of training load and workload has a lot of variables, a lot of parameters, as we can see here. We have, on one hand, the internal load, and in other hand, we have the external load. The internal load is related to the the player, the things that player make and reflects on him. The external load, it's related to the things that he make on the field, like speeds, like time, like distances, and we can have evaluate from with some instruments that I will talk about in a minute. So here we can see that training load, workload, match load in the last years are were very important in the to the players, to the staff, and even for the investigators. But a lot of it's from men's football, not from women's football. And we can see even the way that external loads are. We get the external load with the football GPS trackers, but mainly on men's, as we can see here on the on these images. But we're starting now, and I'm saying now the last 5 years too, um, to be very concerned about the external load on women's. In even with the internal load. In the internal load, we are talking about the perception of the effort that we make. This is the Borg rating of perceived exertion scale that is very important to and reliable for evaluate the internal load. And even on the last years, it's very important to evaluate the well-being of the players. Yeah. So this is things that we are making with the women's football, women's soccer. So this is an example of the evaluation of external load parameters in and sorry, on a competition that it's the the championship in Europe, and we can see here the high speed or an intensity running and the sprinting data from them. So this is another one that shows data from women's. And we can see the total distance from sprint distance and high speed running. And this is the same investigation, but showing different things like the maximum speed and the acceleration, the decelerations from the players. So shows that women's football, it's now being very much evaluated and to increase the performance of the players and decrease the injury risks. So I'm going to put here some examples made from our investigation group here in Portugal, and we center on the Portuguese elite female soccer. There is on the last years, it's been growing because until 2017, 2018, it was very anarchic, poor. But after some decisions from our Portuguese Federation, we started to uh, see that Portuguese elite female soccer is very important here in Portugal. So we have here some papers made it from me and my group of investigation that were concerned about these things, the workload, the training load, um, and even body composition, for example. It's very important. The effects out of the body composition, the relation between the workload and the injury risk and the performance, obviously. So this is works made on the last 4 years and were published until this year. So this is one that we are. It's almost published, and it was the last that we made with a group of players, professional players. This is some results that we have. So you can see here different kinds of things. So internal load, external load, and differences between starters and non-starters. This is an example from internal load results from a session. You can see here it's very high. um, we can see here you can see data from the wellness already. It's very important to know the wellness or well-being of the athletes too. This is an example of a data from a day that we have here. And it's not very important the name. So this is an example from the data taken from the external load from a match day, from a weekly day, a weekly data, um, the parameter distance in a weekly data and a day, match day, the sprint distance of a match day, and with the weekly data. The top speeds, as you can see here, the girls are between 29 and 24, more or less, and the data from the weekly too. And there are a lot of thematics too related to the women's football that we are concerning about. One, it's about the body composition and the anthropometric matters. We make a small investigation here that we evaluate the evolution of the body composition between before the season and in the season. And what we can see here is that they decrease the body fat mass, they increase the fat-free mass, and even the intracellular water and the extracellular water. So this was three things that we evaluate and we had on this investigation. There is a greater training load in the beginning of the season that tends to maintain throughout the season. The fat mass parameters were decreasing, especially from the first to the second evaluation. So the first evaluation until August, and the water parameters improved over time. It's very good. It's very good to know this. This is a concern about the female soccer players because body composition is one of the injury factors that risk factors that probably can deal to injuries. And this is another theme that we are now starting to investigate and to know about more. It's about the elastic bands, the reheating using elastic bands. We know that we have some very good information about it, and it's very practices accessible. It has potential benefits for optimizing performance and reducing youth risk in amateur settings. But we need more research, and that's what we are making now. We think it's very important to use the elastic bands and some types of elastic bands, and we are starting to um, do more work about it. So this was just a little information about a team that we here in Portugal and especially in Sports Science School of Rio Maior we are concerned about. That is the training load, the workload in women's football. And what we are trying to do is to put more information to help the women's football in Portugal and not just in Portugal, but all over the world. Thank you very much for your intention. This is my context. Thank you very much.